Let's spend a little bit of time here looking at what our students need to research for part A. So you remember they're given something will look exactly like this. The only thing that will be different is the bold here. 3 different outdoor education businesses. That's the bit, the focus that will change. Everything else, you'll remember, remains the same. And so our students will always be asked to research the business operations, facilities, products and services, and demographics. So in this video, we're going to look at what sort of things students should look for in their 3 different outdoor ed businesses on the internet, on those websites, with regard to the business operations. So what sort of things are involved in business operations? What sort of things are involved in facilities? What should I be looking for products and services? And similarly with demographics. So let's push on and have a look at that and see how we can help our students in this particular area. So my recommendation for this is to ensure that you give your students plenty of opportunity to practice so that they can understand what's required and they get used to finding the relevant content. When I say practice, what I mean is give your students, provided you've got access to the digital devices, the opportunity to be exposed to researching, to go and research a particular website or a website of their choice and pull out the relevant information that we're about to look at. So the way I approach it with my students is to say, well, you've got 4 sides of paper. The first 3 should be used for the 3 businesses that you're researching. So business 1, side 1, business 2, side 2, business 3, the 3rd side, and the 4th side then is left to add information about how to tackle the assessment, which we'll look at in another video. But here, let's look at what sorts of things students ought to be looking for. Now, I must point out this is not exhaustive, and clearly it does depend upon what the nature of the focus business is. But generally speaking, these sorts of things we're going to look at are the sorts of things that your students should be aiming to find information about. And we'll see that sometimes it's relatively straightforward, other times certain bits of information may be quite tricky. What I've done is I've taken the points that are usually offered as part of the assessment in the case study and the competitive business. So we're just mirroring those things so we can make those comparisons as we saw in the justification part in activity 4 and when we're doing our SWOT analysis. So let's get on and see what sort of things we might be expecting our students to look for. So firstly, we need to look at where the business is. Is it located in a town, in a city? Is it rural? And also what its population is, i.e. what is its catchment in terms of its demographic and who potentially it is being attracted to. Then we move on to the type of business. So is it a private business? Is it a public business? Is it a sole trader? Is it partner? Is it the things we've studied with types of business? We also then need to look at what the purpose of the business is. And remember, we've said that if it's a private business, obviously the likelihood is it's going to be looking to make a profit, but it could be a relatively new business and therefore it might be in its growth stage, survival stage, breaking even. Has it started to diversify yet, etc. So students can still look at what age it is and the purpose of business based upon that. You can also ask your students to see if they can find out as much as they can about staffing. So I've put staffing and staffing structure because sometimes, especially if it's a smaller business, it might be easier to find out who the staff are and what their roles are. Appreciate that in the bigger businesses that might not always be the case, and you need to tell your students that actually this might not be something that's readily available, in which case we don't need to worry about it, but it is something that certainly may be introduced as part of the assessment, and so if they can find information out about it, so much the better. Then, having had a look at what staffing structure is like, it might be possible to find out what the roles and responsibilities are of those staff. Again, it might not be readily available, in which case it's nothing to worry about, but it's useful for our students to be aware of that. Moving on. Also, what about the stakeholders? Stakeholders is really, really important. It's something that your students should be able to talk about when they're talking about the business operation. And if they can find out, clearly the stakeholders will be customers and owners and managers, etc. But if anything more about the stakeholders and who they are, that would be beneficial. Similarly, the operating hours, when are they open from and to, different times, etc. during the weekend, the weekends. Find out as much information as possible about that. And lastly, on business operations, what about pricing? How much does it cost? How much do they charge? And are there any promotions or discounts, etc., so that they're aware of what the business is doing in regard to pricing? So quite a bit there in terms of business operations. I just want to reiterate that it might be that your students can't find everything about that, but generally speaking, if they can collect information as much as they can about those things, then they will be in a really good place. Let's move on to facilities. Could be, again, this isn't exhaustive, but could be things like the premises, buildings, facilities that they have. It could also be activity areas that they have close by or outside their premises. It could also refer to any equipment they have, how much they have, the state, the quality of the equipment. It could also refer to changing facilities, locker rooms, changing areas, etc. Is there a car park? How close is parking? Is it free? Is it convenient? And then, is there some kind of refreshment area, cafe, or somewhere that parents and clients, customers can buy a refreshment? So again, quite a bit with facilities, and that ties in with products and services. So this is the area which really we're asking the question, what does it offer? What does the business do? And again, it could be that it's an individual sole trader who's a personal trainer. It could be that it offers different types of group activities, and we refer back to maybe that being its USP perhaps. It could be that it offers water-based activities. It could be that it specialises in school programs and hitting a particular target market of primary and secondary school groups. It could be that it's a therapeutic type of service, so sports massage, sports therapist, etc. Or it could be, as well as all of these things, could offer nutritional advice as well. Now, some of those are just my examples. It could be that there are other things as well which your students would need to search through. And lastly, demographics, customer group. Who specifically is the business aimed for, and who are the users of the business? So we've got to make sure that our students understand that we're talking about a target market, and that target market will be defined by things like the age. Who specifically, which age groups are or is the business targeting, aimed at? And what about gender? Also, what about diversity and ethnicity? Is it inclusive? And is it catering for all groups in society, including those with disabilities? And then finally, what about socioeconomic groupings? Is it an exclusive, high-end, expensive business, or is it one that caters for students and those who are on lower incomes and perhaps are unemployed? So lots and lots of information there. And I think if we can also, when our students are practicing their web quests, they're searching for information, if we can give them this as well, they will be able to refer to it and pick out various points. I think the key thing, as I've said through, but I'll reiterate just now, is I don't think we will ever hit in one business all of these things, and I think it's important to put that across to your students. This is not 100% watertight, it must be all of these, and this is certainly not exclusive, meaning that there may be other things as well. But in general, most business, we should be able to pick out most of those things. And again, as I said at the beginning, I've structured this in the same way as the information in the assessment, the case study in part B is presented as well. So hopefully you'll find that useful, and hopefully you'll find that your students are able to make good use of this particular document.